This lecture has been made available to you courtesy of the American Numismatic Society.
So I'm delighted to welcome you all at the American Numismatic Society, and as well as our many friends online, and they're still all coming on, as we present today the 2024 Collier Prize in Ancient Numismatics to the creators of Moneda Ibérica. More about them in a minute. Before we proceed with the actual ceremony, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge our deepest gratitude to our ANS trustee, Carole and Menzi Collier, whose dedication and vision have been the driving force behind this generous award. Without her tireless efforts and passion for furthering academic numismatics, not an obvious topic for a philanthropist, this award would not have come to fruition. Carole Ann, you inspire us, me in particular all, and I cannot thank you enough. And I know you will want to say a few words before I go on with the ceremony.
Thank you. Great. This way I can see everybody in the audience. It's a great honor to be back in New York and to meet the authors of this magnificent endeavor and to award the second Collier Prize. I imagine that Professor Collier would have been very happy to see the level of attention to this subject. Professor Collier is my late husband, Jim Collier, professor of art history at Auburn University, a realist artist, and an avid collector of ancient and Greek and Roman coins. He started the collection when he was only 9 years old, and it was a passion that lasted a lifetime. He had many catalogs and books to help him in his pursuit of the next acquisition, but he never had access to anything as impressive and as comprehensive as Moneda Ibérica. The digital catalog Moneda Ibérica shows us many beautiful coins that could have been in Jim's collection. Anyone who looked at his collection is struck by the beauty of the images. And this, of course, reflects the portrait artist making selection among hundreds of coins that he looked at over the years. Every city that we went to would merit a look for numismatica in the yellow pages. Yes, yellow pages, if some of you remember those. Whether it was after a long flight to Sydney or a short hop over to Oslo, a stop at the local numismatics shop was a priority. And some of the gems of the collection came from places far from Amsterdam. There are 2 Iberian coins in the collection, both of which were purchased on the peninsula. The first was purchased in Valencia in 2005 from Numismatica Craven. It's a bronze dated 204 to 154 BC from Castelló, Spain, with a lovely patina and a comical sphinx with a very funny little hat. It was 10 years before the second Iberian coin entered the collection, Bolska and Denarius, also dated 204 to 154 BC. We found it at the Sunday morning Mercado de Ribeira in Lisbon from the stall of Santarém Scalabus. This denarius, bought in September 2015, is the second to last coin to enter the collection as number 1050. By the way, both coins have now been entered into Moneda Ibérica. Instead of leaving the collection intact, Jim wanted the coins to go back to the market, to allow others to create collections as he did over 65 years. So the Collier coin collection will go into the market on April 5th in Zurich under the auspices of Nomis AG. The proceeds will go to benefit the ANS Collier Prize. And so it's to the ANS and to UTA that I offer my sincere thanks for sponsoring this prize. My job in the whole process is very simple. I just write the check. But special thanks must go to the jury, who worked their way through quite a number of submissions to finally agree on Moneda Ibérica as the winner of the second Collier Prize. Some of the jury members are here today, and I thank you for your diligence and congratulate you on your excellent choice. I understand the competition was quite tough, so we can be sure that they earn their fees. And special thanks goes to Peter van Alphen, who once again oversaw the whole process from the announcement of the competition to arranging all the jury sessions to moderating what I understand was some very heated discussions. So Peter, muchas gracias. And now Uta will introduce the 4 winners of the prize.
Tower over this here. Well, thank you so much, Carole Ann. Yes, let me turn to our recipients here of the 2024 Collier Prize. Here at the ANS, digital numismatics has been at the heart of our activities for almost 50 years. Thanks to some visionary leaders in the past, and here I always like to mention the late Harry W. Barrs Jr., who served as ANS president 1978 to 1984. And it was during this period that he initiated and funded what we call today the digitization of the collection of the ANS, and helped launch the first website in 1997, on which an early version of the database existed. I was at the time in the British Museum, and I think Andy was there as well, in astonishment as this concept of having over 500,000 coins already listed then. British Museum was trying to work on something similar, but wasn't quite as far advanced. And Harry Barrs poured vast sums of money into this project, but also his energy, and the library catalog was included as well. But what made the ANS and subsequent databases and other digital projects so different from traditional numismatic scholarship is the collaborative approach to digital numismatics. While the traditional numismatic scholar used to be someone sort of sitting in a cabinet, their famous drawings, sorting out coins or photos and writing books or articles, today numismatics is much more about teamwork. And such teams are often spread over different countries, and the internet allows us to work with each other in ways which were really hard to imagine when the ANS first started its databases. And I'd like to here acknowledge also, apart from Andy, former deputy director, also Frédéric Duras here, who is one of the other people really specializing in moving this field along, and we're very fortunate. Thank you for coming. I know this is more coincidence, as well as all our colleagues. So while there are a lot of these projects in our field, Moneda Ibérica stands out in so many ways. So it presents, for those of you who don't know what this is and haven't looked at it, please do. It is a catalog of Iberian coins, which covers over 500 years of monetary history of Spain and southern France, and with over 5,000 types linking to over 100,000 coins in many of the great coin cabinets in Europe, as well as here in the US, the American Numismatic Society. Those of us using it are impressed, or I have to say in my case, envious is really the word, of the many functions that the website offers. In short, it is not only a first-rate scholarly tool and of scholarly quality, it is also beautiful and user-friendly, which is sadly rare for some of the other corpora that we're using. I won't go any further, but people know, probably some here in the room, what I'm talking about. The judges of the Collier Prize faced a difficult choice, as Carole Ann just said, as we had to pick a winner from very different topics and publication formats. And what impressed the judges about Moneda Ibérica was this seamless, efficient structure, which accommodates so many data points, the coins, but also weights. When you look at it, it's just mind-boggling what is, and then optimizes this effortless retrieval. It is really a wonderful way of using it for the user, including people who might not be specialists, as it is in so many different languages. The team of numismatic scholars and IT specialists clearly work so well together, and this is what came so clearly out of this, and this is a model for us all working in this field. And it is therefore a very great pleasure, and I'm going to ask you now all to come up to award this Collier Prize of 2024 to Manuel Gonzalez, Alex Peña, Juan Francisco Onyeva, and Perry Poe, our dear friend. Please all come up, as well as Carole Ann. So, we're gonna start.
Well, thank you very much for your very kind words about the platform Moneda Ibérica, to Carole and Ute. And we would like to begin by thanking, of course, Carole Collier for establishing this wonderful numismatic prize in memory of your late husband, Professor James M. Collier, and to the ANS for hosting this prize, and also to the members of the jury that has evaluated the works of the people have submitted. This is a very important award for us, as it recognizes the work the team has developed over the past few years. We are therefore proud, we can say very proud, to receive this prize from Carole and from the leading institution in research, innovation, and preservation of the numismatic heritage, the American Numismatic Society. Of the 4 prize winners, as it has been said, 2 have worked on numismatic content, while the other 2 have been involved in software development. This reflects the times we live in and highlights the benefits of close collaboration between numismatics and technology. By combining historical knowledge with digital tools, this partnership improves the quality of the project. First of all, MIP, Moneda Ibérica, is a project based on continuous graphic documentation of coins, developed over the last 44 years. It's based on the conviction that archives with images of coins are an essential tool for numismatic research, especially for ancient series. The work of Leandre Villaronga the first slide is not on the screen. The work of Leandre Villaronga was MIP's closest reference in our work. In 1977, we contacted him, and he allowed us to use his graphic archive, which already had, he said, 60,000 index cards of Iberian and Roman provincial coins. Having access to this impressive analog archive, the only one in Spain for this type of coinages, made us realize the importance of this tool for our work. And an immediate consequence, we began to create a graphic archive of ancient coins struck in the Iberian Peninsula. This archive was housed and maintained at the Department of Prehistory and Archaeology at the University of Valencia. From 1980 to the present, this archive has collected Iberian and Roman provincial coins from public collections that were accessible, such as Museo Arqueológico de Madrid, the Gabinet Numismatic de Catalunya, the Real Academia de la Historia, the American Numismatic Society, the British Museum, the Cabinet de Médailles from Paris, the Royal Coin Cabinet of Stockholm, the Civica Raccolta di Milano, Museo Civico Bologna, Archeologico di Firenze, Nazionali di Roma, Nazionali di Napoli, the Biblioteca Apostolica Vaticana, and many, many others. It also includes important private collections: Vidal Valle, Villaronga, Wisonki, Cores, Bella, Saccone, and many more private collections with small quantities. But the biggest, of course, we had access. The archive also collects all coins sold at public auctions, recorded from all catalogs in the Cabinet de Médailles in Paris, and cut from new catalogs kindly sent in duplicate by the auction houses. Many people have been involved in this documentation work over the years. Some of them have used the archive for write PhD, for the master dissertations and papers. Our participation in the Roman Provincial Coinage Vol.I gave us a very valuable experience in the preparation of a reference catalog. And the start of the Historia Numorum series, of which the Italian volume was published in 2001, encouraged us to take part in this initiative. We began to collect plaster casts of the best preserved coins to illustrate the different types and variants. It was the way, the form that at this moment, were illustrate the best catalogs. A very important help for this objective was the access to the impressive collection of plaster casts that George Francis Hill collected in the British Museum at the end of the 1920s, consisting of about 3,000 coins, plaster casts of 3,000 coins, of the selected from the most important museums and collections of the time. This was made possible by the facilities provided by Dr. Andrew Burnett and the patient assistance of Professor Andrew Meadows, then assistant keeper of the British Museum. The task of organizing and cataloging the vast amount of material collected for the Historia Numorum Spain was a never-ending one. So, in 2010, Manuel González, who had been working on the design of the digital graphic archive and the bibliographical database for a long time, joined the project. Although the digital documentation hosted in a FileMaker file was already almost equal to the analog one, the plan remained to publish a printed catalog. During these years, digital numismatics began to show its potential to manage and illustrate coins without limitations and with a quality never reached before. The Ochre platform was announced in July 2012. Was announced in July 2012, and it paved the way for a digital reference catalog that continues to grow with ongoing enhancements and contributions, and it has become a model for the benefits of the digital format in terms of accessibility, ease of use, and quality of illustrations. When most of the catalog was already written, the catalog for Historia Numorum Spain, and images selected, we decided to change our plan, to abandon the printed format plan and adopt a digital one. In a few years, we became convinced that the digital structure was the most appropriate and that it would prevail in the immediate future. We feel that it has been an enriching and privileged experience to witness and participate in this transition from the analog to the digital format. The limitations of the printed catalogs in relation to the new format are important, as they illustrate only one coin of each type. The life size of images of the coins are small, and it's not possible to include the new specimens and types that appear after their publication. These strong arguments made it necessary to plan a new project in the digital world. Our contact and collaboration with numismat.org project have been decisive to touching the digital scene. We must remember that digital numismatics, unlike other projects or in other disciplines, have a plan thanks to the emergence of numismat.org initiative, which has been the basis for all the important progress that has been made in recent years. In this evolution, the working meetings with other colleagues have also been crucial, giving us a perspective on the path to follow, at least in the immediate future. The meeting in Paris in 2014 was the first determinant for us to introduce ourselves to the current projects. And since then, the joint meetings of European coin find networks and numismat.org have been a source of inspiration, a very important source of inspiration and motivation to develop the project. The project also relies on the technological solution implemented. Manuel experience in managing the collection of the Museu de Prehistoria made it possible to learn about Dédalo. Dédalo, of course, Dédalo is the name of the application. In this context, Alejandro Peña and Francisco Onierfa, who have been developing this heritage management system since 1998, joined the project. Dédalo is a powerful software for heritage management, and while this is not the place to detail its features, it's important to point out that it has a long track record of experience in different kinds of projects, not just numismatics. In fact, start with other kinds of projects. Most importantly, it's free and open source software, and it uses standard programming languages. Since 2016, they began to develop a new architecture for monetary catalogs, which received the name Numisdata. With it, in 2016 and 2017, we carried out two small numismatic projects on monetary finds in Sardinia and a collection of Valencian coins that served as test bed for a future Iberian coin catalog. The final push of MIB, Moneda Ibérica digital catalog, was conceived while drinking a beer at the brew pub in Copenhagen. This is the precise moment where we, the winners, together with Andrew Meadows, Frederic Duras, and at this moment, Chris Halgego, as you can say, as advisor, agreed to join forces to start the development of a project in which each country would contribute its work with the purpose of creating the Greek coinage.org, where Moneda Ibérica will also be shown. This arch project was approved at the end of 2017 in the call of the Joint Programming Initiative on Cultural Heritage of the European Union, which provided funding that allowed the processing of the images, the feeding of the digital archive, the development of the management system, and the creation of the public web, which beta version was launched in March 2021. MIB is a never-ending project because the number of new coins that are constantly appearing is huge. And in addition, it's always possible to improve the visualization and to add new features, such as the countermark section developed by Pablo Cerdá and the glyph index. These are the two visions of the index of glyphs and image of the countermarks. MIB is part of the typological catalogs of Iberian coins, but it has been designed and presented by the new digital age. These catalogs date back to the 18th century and have an uneven distribution over time. The first catalog of ancient coins of the Iberian Peninsula was published by Flórez under the name Medallas de las Colonias, Municipios y Pueblos Antiguos de España. Although the coins with Paleo-Hispanic inscriptions were not included because the legends of this series couldn't be read. Nowadays, we can read, but we don't know what they are saying, what is written. The first catalog that included the ancient Iberian types was published in 1870 by Vol.II. Very soon after, the work of Antonio Delgado, well, the plays were drawn by Dardel, as you know, was the best engraver of this moment. The other was written by Delgado, but both catalogs, as you can see, was illustrated with drawings and were in use for about 50 years. Antonio Vives published in 1924 and 1926 La Moneda Ibérica, illustrated with plaster casts. This was an important step forward as he abandoned the subjectivity of drawings. It took 70 years until Villaronga in 1994 and updated in 2011 published Corpus Numum Hispaniae Anti Augusti Etatem. This is important. This series of catalogs are important because MIP digital catalog benefits from the contributions of the preceding books. But what's MIP? MIP is a catalog of catalogs. As already mentioned, MIP is an initiative that is part of the European project ARCH, developed in Spain in the University of Valencia and Museum of Prehistoria. MIP organizes the monetary production of the ancient cities of the Iberian Peninsula and the Southern Gaul from a broad, multidisciplinary and historical perspective. The typological catalog of the series, produced between the 6th and 1st centuries BC, is at the center of the project, accompanied by the documentation of coins, hoards, and finds, and all supported by an exhaustive bibliography. MIP project has two parts: Dédalo management system and the public website. Like two sides of a coin, Dédalo is the research application that allows us to manage the coin archive and to publish selected content on the web. The digital archive used to build MIP, Moneda Ibérica, currently collects 100,000 coins that are recorded internally for research purpose. This database includes coins from the most important public collections, as has been said, from auctions, and eventually from private collections. More than 50,000 coins are published on the public website. The name Moneda Ibérica assumes a geographical perspective, since it includes the coinage struck in the Iberian Peninsula by Greeks, Punics, Carthaginians, Iberians, Celtiberians, Vascons, Lusitanians, and Latins between the 6th and 1st centuries BC. The term Moneda Ibérica, also has linguistic implications, since it includes Gallic coinages that use the Iberian script. The catalog brings together the monetary production of more than 220 cities and struck more than 4,200 variants, types and variants. Each type includes different numbering systems that serve as a reference. The first one is a machine number, the most important one, as it serves as the persistent identifier for each type and remains unchanged over time. The second is a human one, easier to understand, combining sequential mint and type numbers. These type numbers are useful for determining the order of mintage and give an idea of the size of the production. BIP is the first catalog for this ancient series that includes types and variants, and in many cases, variants which are identified by letters 1A, 1C, 1B. This is important because the degree of systematization of this production was often low. The identification of variants is intended to provide more detailed view of monetary production, allowing for more precise references when cataloging. Although the legends of figures have peculiarities, they are considered part of the same type and are better understood when described as a variant of it. Bilbilis, this screen, is an example of such a situation. The portrait style helps to define the type with variants identified by the shape of the characters or the length of the legends. The first one, Bilbili, the second, Bilbilis, and the third, Bilbili with an I without a stroke in the middle. Types and variants are illustrated with a selected coin, along with the rest of the specimens that help define the entry. Within each type, in this case, museums, the specimens are arranged in 3 categories of galleries, according to their origin. Museums, institutions, in this case, auctions, coins that has been documented from auctions, and private collections. These galleries are particularly valuable for checking the consistency of the type or variant described, and for improving the cataloging accuracy. The implementation of this second level of information is a major difference between digital catalogs and printed catalogs. The most complete part of Moneda Ibérica is the main section. It contains an introductory text accompanied by the bibliography, a map showing the location of the mint, the coin finds, and the catalog of types. It's important to point out that MIP project includes around 50,000 bibliographic references to support research and, most importantly, to acknowledge the authorship of previous works. MIP catalog presents several singularities, but at the same time, it keeps several fronts open. Among the singularities, it's worth mentioning the representation of the legends in their original script, for which it was necessary to implement an epigraphical tool that allow us to represent bilingual legends in the same field, that is, to write Unicode fonts and illustrations in SVG format for Palo-Hispanic scripts and countermarks. It's also worth noting that Moneda Ibérica is a pioneering project in showing the coin's images at a scale relative to their diameter. This is the case. You can see unit, half, 1/3, 1/4, and you have the size, and you can appreciate immediately the difference between, even though they have the same designs. This makes it easier to distinguish between the different denominations shown. MIP catalog does, however, maintain aspects that remain somewhat open due to lack of archaeological evidence or context. We have no answer for all questions. In some cases, the difficulties of sorting and dating are significant, especially for mints that were either irregular or struck a small number of coins. MIP is a publication with an official standard web publication number granted by the National Library of Spain, recognizing its status as an academic work. This allows authors collaborating on the project to have their contributions acknowledged in their curricula. This is, at this moment, people that we was at the university, we know that is important for students, for the curricula, to acknowledge all the efforts that they can do in the different projects. MIP is part of the numismatic universe of catalogs based on the linked open data model. It connects all museums collections available online using stable URIs. MIP was born as part of the ARCH project and remains one of its core components. Its contents are included in the catalog of Coinage.org of the University of Oxford, whose search engine links to the types on our website. The means of our project represents 14% of the 1,613 identified in Coinage.org, while the types account for approximately 13% of the total. At this point, we have briefly explained the main characteristics of the productions listed in Moneda Ibérica. The pre-imperial issues of the Iberian Peninsula and southern France are very diverse in iconography, epigraphy, metrology, and represent different degrees of monetization, because they were struck by different peoples, as I said, and because the chronological span is wide. The 5 centuries of coinage can be divided into 4 well-defined periods, according to the information provided by more than 300 hordes documented in MIP. A section, the hordes, that is currently being reviewed and completed by Vol.II, that is part of a next or coming PhD about hordes. The first period includes issues from 515 to 237. During this period, 6 cities minted coins, all located, as you can see, on the coast: Ruscino, Rhodes, Emporion, Arce, Ebusus, and Gadir. The first coinages were minted in the Phocian colony of Emporion towards the end of the 6th century BC. In the beginning, Emporion struck medium-sized denominations, but then, during the 5th and 4th centuries, its coinage was characterized by reduced weight, most coins weighing less than 1 gram, and by a great variety of types. These coins had a local function, leaving aside the financing of armies or important commercial activities. From their fractional character and the pattern of circulation, it can be deduced that these coins were widely used by Greeks and indigenous neighbors. Due to their low value, a large part of the population had access to them. Towards the end of the 4th century BC, the Greek colony of Rhodes began minting drachmas, changing the pattern of fractions used until then. Shortly thereafter, the colony of Emporion also struck drachmas and stopped issuing fractions. This new phase of Emporium took place at the beginning of the 3rd century BC and lasted intermittently until the second half of the 2nd century BC. The introduction of coinage among the native populations was a delayed, slow, and territorially uneven process. The Iberians, or the Iberian world, knew coinage during the 5th and 4th centuries BC. Coins had come into the hands of the natives through trade activities and the Iberian mercenaries who fought wars in the central Mediterranean between Greeks and Carthaginians. The first Iberian issues were struck at the city of Arce. Probably, or perhaps is better known as Saguntum, the Roman name, were struck at Arce, probably in the second half of the 4th century BC. With these coinages, Arce did no more than formalize in coin form the use of silver bullion valued by weight. But for most native populations, true monetizations didn't begin until the late 3rd century BC. In this period, some Punic cities like Ebusus, Ibiza, or Gadir, Cadiz, also struck coins according to a different model, because instead of issuing silver fractions for their routine low-level exchanges, they expressed an initial preference for the bronze. The arrival of the Carthaginians from 237 was a great revolution in monetary terms. They minted coins first to pay the occupation troops and then to finance the Second Punic War against the Romans, who also paid their troops with coins and silver. This led to an intense circulation of coins and hack silver, accelerating the monetization of the native societies. Coin hoards from this period provide information about the coins used to finance the war and about the area in which they circulated. The Carthaginians largely financed their military expenditures with coins struck from metals presumably mined in Iberia. This is one example, this gold electrum. These are silver. This is some researchers say could be the portrait of Hannibal. And bronze, large quantities of bronze. The Romans, on the other hand, financed their military expenses with a more varied set of coinages. unlike the Carthaginians, they used local means and designs. Most payments were made with local means and designs. Most payments were made with drachmae from Emporion, with a Pegasus type, in this case, with a modified head. We have no explanation for this. Why put, it seems a boy is touching the feet with the hands. It's amazing. But Romans also struck issues with Roman types. Other coinages found in buried hoards during the war years are the Iberian imitations of Emporion and drachmas from Ebusus, the first one, Gadir in the middle, and Seitavi at right. Most of them were minted in a military context. War financing contributed decisively to the familiarity and use of coins by the indigenous population. Nevertheless, coins were not evenly distributed throughout the territory. As the location where hoards were found indicate that they were mainly concentrated along the Mediterranean coast and rarely to the interior, as you can. After defeating the Carthaginian forces, the Romans settled in the Iberia Peninsula, which they called Hispania. Roman rule integrated the native economy into that of the Roman state and contributed to the growing use of coins. During the 2nd century BC, there was a progressive development of native coinage, which reached its peak between the years 140 and 80 BC, when more than 180 cities issued coins. This was related to the urban, this map you can see the mints that we know where they are located, but there are more than 40 that we don't know where they are. This huge number of mints are related to the urban development and the existence of economies in which payment and retail trade were common, as in the case of mining zones, Castulo, in the case of Obulco, is agricultural territories, or ports, as for example, Arce Saguntum. The most important milestones of this period, of the 2nd century BC, was the introduction of the Iberian denarii, the compatibility of the Iberian and Roman denominations, and the preservation of the cultural singularities of each area, despite being under Roman rule. It's hard to understand, but these are the Iberian cities use more and more their own scripts and their own iconography. Coin legends show well, this is an example of the Iberian denarius. This is one example of this with a good style, good engravers, and there are others that are, of course, more crude. The coin legends I'm saying that show evidence of several types of writing. The use of Paleo-Hispanic scripts was a form of autonomy and self-representation of the elites, reflecting the diversity of the existing peoples in Hispania and the Roman permission or absence of regulations, as well as the development of urban life. Another outstanding feature of the 2nd century BC was the great variety of designs, with little influence from Roman iconography. Native issues adopted Hellenistic iconographic figures of different origin. Through their repeated use, they became the characteristic icons of several means of regions. Some characteristics of the designs allow us to identify differences in monetary production between the two Hispanic provinces. This is one of these examples of coins that after their repeated use, they became as an icon of the Iberian coinages. In the cities of the Citerior province, the monetary types were characterized by a rather uniformity. Since for the bronze, as we have seen, and the silver denarii, the male head of the obverse and the horseman of the reverse were preferred. The obverse could represent the founding hero or a local divinity of the ethnic group. And the reverse could be chosen to fulfill the values or beliefs of the elite of the equestrian tradition. The homogeneity of the types and scripts suggest the will to participate in a monetary circuit with recognizable and homologous pieces. In this image, you can see all are from different mints, but only people who could read the legend can identify the provenance. But all are different. But you can see that are a huge similarity, an amazing similarity. In the province of the Ulterior, on the other hand, there was a greater variety of monetary designs, and many of them were related to flora and fauna. They reflected multiple facets of their identity. They alluded to their cults, such Heracles, Melkart, Hephaestus Vulcano, Heliosan, and male and female local deities. But they were too closely tied to the economic resources of the cities. In the Gadir, the tuna, Gadir was a famous place, a famous production of garum and salted tuna. and Obulco has a plaque and a corn ear. The last period corresponds to the 1st century BC. This was characterized by being the scene of several Roman civil wars. The first decades of the century were a continuation of the expansionary years of the late 2nd century BC, during which large amount of Iberian denarii were minted, which served to finance the Sertorian Wars of the years 80 to 72. Since there were very few native issues during these years, one of the most important consequences of this war was the end of silver coinages and a decrease in the production of bronze issues. The subsequent civil war between Caesar and Pompey, and later against his sons, had little effect on Iberian coinage, which from then on began to integrate into the provincial production system. On the coins, the emperor's portrait and the use of Latin are the main features. To conclude, we would like, the whole team, we would like once again to express our gratitude to Carole and the ANS for the prize, and to the institutions and individuals who have supported this project. The list is very long and includes the Spanish Ministerio de Ciencia e Innovación, the Universitat de Valencia, the Museu de Prehistòria de València, the Oxford University, the Cabinet de Médailles, the Ashmolean Museum, the British Museum, the Kippe Collection, Jesus Vico and Associates, Subastas Cayón, Tonegawa Collection, the International Numismatic Council that has given his patronage, the auction houses that have allowed to use the images of their catalogs, and more than 30 people who, with varying degrees of collaboration, have made this project a reality. Thank you very much.
Well, collaboration, I mean, this nothing shows this better than what you said. It is really quite remarkable. But thank you again, those of you who take the patience. It's I know, we all know that, because many of us involved in that work, how much work you put into this, and again, congratulations. Maybe there are questions or comments from people in the audience as well as online, which I think someone has to tell us. Nobody wants to make any comments. Is there any comments online? I see that only maybe through the chat. Let me see. Look at the chat. Tia from Dan Wolf saying excellent presentation. Yes, absolutely true. Thank you, Frederic.
Well, so I shout. The microphone doesn't seem to work. Yeah, so thank you for this. It was crystal clear, it was quite striking to see the importance of the legends on the coins. And I wondered, has anyone tried to evaluate the level of literacy of the population if the legends played such a prominent role?
Well, there are several opinions about the literacy of the Iberian native, we can say the Iberian people. There are people that think that there are more than we thought that they could read, understand, because philologists say that there were a dual script for the I don't know in English, the sordas and sonoras, well, for the S, for the D, DT, BP. So, but in my opinion, they only could recognize the mint if they memorize the legend as a figure, as an image. In fact, people that were producing the imitations of the Emporium dogmas, they reproduce the legends, and it's in a wrong form, showing that they couldn't read what was in the legend. But I think very few people, in fact.
It might work. It does work. Thank you so much, Peripal. A truly remarkable project. There are, I guess, always two sides to numismatics. One side is what was produced where, which, thanks to MIB, we now have a very clear idea of. The other side, of course, is where did it go? And you mentioned a project of one of your students to gather the hoard material. Do you think there's any hope for a sort of an individual finds database in Spain that will link to Moneda Ibérica eventually?
Yeah, this is a project in Cádiz. Perhaps is familiar for you. Is Wonder Coins. That the goal of the project is to document finds, and we hope that in the future both platforms join, and we can use and the coins that are in the sphere in the field of the Moneda Ibérica to be incorporated, and the map of finds could be completed. Not just hoards, but hoards is, as I said, is a PhD that is starting to revise, to check, to see chronologies, what dies are in which hoard, and because this is important to structure the chronology of the issues of the Iberian and the Hispanic issues. And finds are important because, as you can you saw that there are at least 40 mints that we have no idea. Well, we can draw the area, but it's possible with the findings to be more precise, and we are in this, yeah, because this has no end.
Is the software widely available now for this?
yeah, it's free, and if you wish, is the developers perhaps, but yes, can be downloaded and used. Yeah.
Plug and play?
Sorry.
Oh, no. No, the server is not easy. No, it's not easy.
Let me see if there are any more. So there is a question here online. Will you go on developing the site?
Sorry.
Will you go on developing the site?
Yeah, but in fact, there are always improvements, and so it's
Yesterday night.
it was, yeah, it has no end because it's possible to link and to the glyphs in the legends to go to all the coins or legends that has the same glyph, or we are trying to the printed version of this means, or the entire catalog is so there are goals for the future. Yeah, we have. So.
Well, if there are no further questions, and for those in the room, you can have more questions to everyone. We're going to have a small reception, and I thank everyone, including everyone online. And again, many congratulations and very many thanks to Carole. Thank you.